Definitely a big takeaway from this weekend is like we need to hold a really high standard for ourselves in practice, and we need to be better about understanding that even though in a match or practice we closed out around, what about one of the top dogs? What about one of the better teams at Champs were playing in an upper final or something? Like, would we have still won it against them?
Everyone, Seijisu in here. I'm here with Sentinels head coach Cap after their series against NRG. So it was a loss. I think surprising. Just initial thoughts, was it just something that you really couldn't believe in the sense, or did you feel like it was something, some little things were just missing compared to the previous form of SEN that we've been seeing?
There's so much stuff that can happen in a series, any series, let alone a best of five. Definitely, like, there's no like one sentence or one problem that answers everything. Some halves that could have been more prepared on or had a different approach on or whatever, but I think we all agree on the team that there was definitely couldn't like even really bring our baseline into the picture in a lot of halves there. Pretty much all of Lotus, and I would say the Corrode defense half, like really just not on our A game or our B game or our C game. So that's probably the biggest thing on my mind right now. There's definitely a lot we got to talk about and a lot of takeaways, but we can be an incredible team some of the time, but we can be very far from that some of the time, and just need to. We don't even need to be our best version in these games. We need to be a good version consistently. Yeah. So we got to work on that.
When you classify it as more of a, when you went through the alphabet, and I presume it's like a D, right? D, C. What are the things that you feel like are happening that constitute that type of score? Is it just communication being off? Is it comms getting flustered, or is it just the way the guys aren't hyping each other up in certain moments? Like, what are the things that you're actively looking for that you're like, this is struggling and this is not like Sentinels at all?
Yeah, I think that there needs to be like a constant level of communication and thinking and plan making in this game. It's so intense, and I don't envy the players for how much they have to do it, but we definitely have to up that. I just think we can get pretty quiet in spots where we can't afford to. Sometimes I think that's reactive to how the game is going. Other times we have to find a way to be consistent with some of the aspects to our play regardless of who we're against or what the circumstance is. And that ultimately is on me. We have to we just have to have some hard conversations as a team. Like we definitely know what our issues are, but we have to figure out how do we shake it and how do we come in more. How can we find that more consistently? We're all gonna have to work together to figure it out.
Yeah, and personally, I think this split was very interesting just to watch for Sentinels, because I still do think Sentinels is growing at a very strong trajectory, but from a coaching perspective, it is very interesting because I wanted to pick your brain on what it has been like for you going through this process of, being 5-0 where it feels like you're unstoppable, but then there are still these things maybe internally, some minute details that you really want to perfect and craft. How challenging has it just been to continuously find things and pockets that you do need to improve on so that you can have this base that's so consistent?
Yeah, I mean, it's a non-stop job. It's definitely tiring. I would say like figuring out stuff we need to work on, it's pretty easy with this team just because I think everyone is pretty honest and open about like what they need to do better. It sets a good example. It helps other people be honest and open. I think people are pretty upfront with their opinions on what could have been better from someone else, including me. So I do think we like chip away and improve, like some percent, 1% every day, like from every match and from every scrim day. Like the work ethic is really there. But yeah, just need to like I think we increase our ceiling very regularly, but yeah, like I said, like maintaining our baseline or close to it, not falling into the worst version of ourselves. That's something that obviously we're still struggling with. It's something that's harder to find, harder to practice, right?
Yeah.
Like you need to get tested to get in those situations. And like we just obviously are struggling still when we're in those spots.
Yeah, I know you're alluding to that a bit where you felt like you weren't really getting tested in practice. The interview with Ravishing Kana, Ravish Casts, Kana. Full.
That's good. Make sure they can find them on Google.
I had to make sure you got the sources correct. He's just over there. He doesn't even know it's
Full name.
Full name.
Birth year. Origin. Whatever.
Everything.
From Toronto.
Yeah, Toronto. No, but stupid. But I want to ask about that base and, practice with those things. Because I feel like with being in Americas, there are just things that you can practice consistently, no matter the opponent. But and I'm not sure if it's giving away stress necessarily, but like what are the types of things that you feel like you only are going to be able to practice with those teams that are like that world-class level, like that top 5, top 6 level team?
Yeah, I think that, okay, obviously like problem solving, right? If a team puts us in a hard position, a position we weren't prepared for, which can, is definitely on me. We can get caught off guard strategically. Our issues can get punished harder. Having to problem solve in those spots is difficult. And just being in the situation where you have to do that and like accepting that and working through it. I have seen a lot of that from the team in the last couple of days. There was a point against Cloud9. We were down. We lost 5 rounds in a row and I didn't have to time out. To lose 5 rounds in a row and not time out because they sat there and used basically a minute in the round to just like while saving a gun, like talk about, get themselves back mentally and figure out a solution where I'm listening and go, well, we sound good and the solution sounds good to me. Why would I press the button? And then I think we won the next 2 rounds. That's really something to praise. And I think there was some tricky spots, like our Sunset defense has been a little tricky. And I really heard for example, Sean and Marshall, who play a lot of the same space together, like really figuring some stuff out today. That's one thing. Also, I think you need to be more perfect when you're in advantageous positions against great teams because they'll take anything you can give them, right? You can't give them, you give them an inch, they take a mile. I think in some games and definitely in scrims, we aren't like closing good spots. We're not like tested enough on it, but that's no excuse. Like definitely a big takeaway from this weekend is like we need to hold a really high standard for ourselves in practice, and we need to be better about understanding that even though in a match or practice we closed out around, what about one of the top dogs? What about one of the better teams at champs we're playing in an upper final or something? Like would we have still won it against them with the way we played it? That's hard to do, but I think that's something we could probably look to all work on, kind of like being more self-critical during practice in that way.
I understand. It's like you're trying to set the groundwork during these periods where maybe it's not going to be the level of like a top 2, top 4 team in the world, but then adjusting for when that juxtaposition actually does happen during those important matches. Yeah. Like you're prepared for that.
Yeah, definitely. And you need to have a lot more like self-awareness and foresight, like, on a certain default, what are the gaps, what are the problems of the utility? Because frankly, like our region is smaller and there are less like top level teams to scrim. Like teams in in APAC, they can scrim top Chinese teams. Like the ping is you can deal with it. Like there's a lot. I think you can just straight up find good opposition and get put through really hard spots in scrims more often. I think the regions that are more separated, I'm assuming for EMEA and definitely for Americas, you have to hold a really high standard. You have to think 3 steps ahead sometimes on what your problems might be to just because otherwise you're going to discover them the hard way in a match, and we definitely have been doing that. Sure. Yeah.
And then my final question is more so just, how are you? Like, how has it been? Because I felt like even just watching you, or even when I speak to you, apart from Cubert and the whole championship, it feels like you're very hyper fixated on this goal of winning champs, and it feels like something that really does matter to you. Like, how are you? Are you able to have some blocks where you can take some walks or just detach a bit so that you could come back on days refreshed?
Yeah, I'm definitely tired. It's been a grind, but I'm good. Frustrated because I know how good we can be, and I hate watching us not achieve that. But I think for a lot of fans, it's going to be easy to look at us and think, Sentinels, they have these great games, and then they hit a hard opponent, and then they crumple under the pressure or whatever, or they can't close it. And people can say that all they want, but like, I'm with these guys 60 hours a week. Like, the amount of personal growth I've seen from everyone on the team this year, it's really commendable. And the amount we have improved as a team and as a unit is really commendable. I know that people have a high expectation for us. We all have that for ourselves. And, I think people saw glimmers of it early in the year, but I think getting hung up on the spots where we struggle is valid, and we're hung up on it too. But it can't be, if it's all we do, I don't care what anyone else does outside the team. But as a team, if it's all we do, it's a disservice to how much we have improved through the year. Like, it can be hard to see, but I think we've really grown as a unit. I think we get ourselves through tough spots more often. I think we're in them less often. We are a much better team than before, than 3 months or six months ago. And I think, obviously, yeah, it'd be nice to win an America's trophy, but at the end of the day, there's one game that matters, and it's hopefully the grand final at Champs, the last game we're playing in the year. And I still think we have everything. We're in the driver's seat to make sure the growth pays off when it matters most. Yeah.
Awesome, Cap. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Of course.